Hello everyone, welcome to Painting Crafty. My name's Melanie, and today my video is going to be showing you how you can create a simple paper mache Santa Claus and then turn him into an ornament. I'm going to be using some simple material like cardboard, paper towels, flour, and glue. Today I'm a part of the YouTube collaboration, The Christmas Palooza. Our lovely host today is Annie, and the name of her channel is called Indie Annie Jones, and you're going to find the link to her channel inside of the description box, as well as the playlist for all of the other creators who are contributing to today's collaboration. You definitely want to take some time and check out Annie's channel. She's super creative, as well as click that playlist because I'm sure you're going to be inspired to create something fun for your home this Christmas season. Well, let's start from the beginning. I'll show you where you can start to make these cute, whimsical Santa Clauses.
You're going to want to create these characters on a hard surface. I used the back of a cookie sheet, sprayed it with some water, and then laid down some parchment paper. You could use wax paper too. The water is going to help it stick tight, and the parchment paper is going to help so that your items don't stick to your hard surface. For the base of my faces, I use cardboard. I like using a clickable knife. That way I always have a sharp edge to cut my pieces out. To create the glue, it's equal parts of water and flour. You're mixing it to about pancake batter consistency. The first step to building these pieces is we're going to be covering our cardboard with some paper towel. Go ahead and measure out a piece that covers your cardboard piece completely. Put some glue on the back, flip it over, and now we're going to be putting more glue on the front side and then folding our paper towel over the top. You don't want a lot of extra paper towel during this step, so trim it as you need to and then fold it over on top of itself. I definitely like using my fingers for this process too. I add more glue, press it down with my fingers. You can kind of feel how it's squishing into your paper towel, and you're going to be able to tell if the glue is really holding your piece down. So work on the back, use your fingers, smooth out your edges a little bit, and then flip it over to the other side. Add a little bit more glue. And this step, I'm using a Viva paper towel. There's no extra layers, it's just one solid piece. Definitely have either a washcloth or some extra paper towel so you can go ahead and wipe your fingers off during this process. I'm going to be starting with the hat. I don't want to go any farther down than just a third. I wanted to try using the Viva paper towel for this process, for the face and for my hat, because it doesn't have any pattern on it. It has a little bit more fabric feel to it, and I wanted to see if it made a difference. And it does, really. The Viva towel ends up looking more like fabric, but the other paper towel I use is going to add a little bit more texture, so both are equally fun to use. When creating this part of the hat, I really did want a fabric look, so I really positioned it and manipulated it and had it fold over so it looked more like fabric. On the end, I left a little extra so I could add a little pom-pom ball shape there. Now to create the band of the hat, I tore a little rectangle spot and then laid it down and added a layer of glue. You're going to go ahead and fold this again in half. You can add a little bit more glue and then fold it again. This is where it comes in handy to use your fingers. You can really tell if your piece is if it feels a little slippery, you know you've got enough glue on there. I went ahead and added some more glue down on my cardboard piece and acts more like a anchor piece or glue to help your pieces stick down just a little bit more. I wanted to try to see if I could get a little bit more texture. I took a wooden skewer and I poked a few little holes. I wanted to see if I could end up in the end with a little bit of a fur texture. It's all kind of an experiment. On this step, I'm going to be creating his nose. I'm going to be folding the fabric the same way. Oops, I needed a little bit more water to see if that was going to help hold it down. I should have probably just replaced the parchment paper and added a new one down there. Probably would have been a little bit more helpful. To create his nose, I fold the fabric the same way, and then once I have it all glued, I roll it like a jelly roll on one end and go ahead and roll it up, leave a little bit of the flat area. The flat area is going to go underneath my band. And then once I have that placed down, I'm going to go ahead and squish that centerpiece to make the narrow bridge of my Santa's nose, but leaving that little flat ball at the end to give it a little bit more character. Next part is I'm going to be creating some little round cheeks for this guy. So take some of your, I'm still using the Viva paper towel for this process. I went ahead and balled it up, kind of folding it into itself, creating a half ball shape. To make sure these pieces are going to be anchored down, I add a little bit more glue to my cardboard area there. on his base of his face and then stick it down there. You kind of want to get your balls equal if you can. I made these ones nice and big. My circle's big, so I wanted him to have a little bit of a chubby little cheek look to him. Now on to building the whiskers. This is where I switch my paper towel. You can see I'm pulling it apart. There was 3 layers on this paper towel, so I wanted to make sure I had them down to 1. This paper towel does have a little bit of a texture to it, a little bit of a pattern, and it will show up in the end. It does kind of add an interesting texture to my whiskers on my Santa. You're going to go ahead and fold your piece just the same like you did for your hats, but now we're going to be twisting it a little bit and creating an icicle shape, narrower at the bottom and getting a little wider at the top. Place your first one right in the center underneath his nose. It did help to have that wooden skewer. I could go ahead and lift my nose up in my different pieces and tuck them under where I needed to go. When you're adding your whiskers, you can add a little bit more glue to the base if you need to, if you feel like your pieces need to be glued a little tighter. When you lay your next one down, go ahead and lay it right next to the other ones and making sure your pieces are all touching. And you're going to carry up this pattern all the way up the side of your Santa, going all the way up to your hat brim. I did layer more than just one layer in some areas to give his beard even a little bit more dimension. The thinner paper towels seem to work the best for this. The Vivo paper towel would have been a little too heavy to create these beards, so using this thinner paper towel really did add to the look of my whiskers. Here I'm creating the mustache. I create the paper towel, folding the process the same way. Do one side for one. I made it nice and long and created kind of a little bit of a curve to it to give them a little bit more whimsical nature. Twisted them just like I had the other pieces and tucked them right underneath the nose. I did add a little bit more of the glue there to make sure it was anchored. And the finishing touch for this little guy was going to be that side pom-pom. I created the pom-pom just like I created the cheeks, a half round ball, and then I added some more glue to the end of his little hat and then stuck my pom-pom down. Oh, I forgot about this step. I wanted to add a little bit of eyebrows to him, so I did create some very skinny little eyebrows and connected them at the top and just used my fingers to sculpt it around the top. Keeping in mind, I do have to paint some eyes in there, so you do want to have enough room to be able to paint some eyes in there. I decided to paint the eyes instead of building them out of paper mache. Here's that little ball, and I just stuck it on the end and attach it that way. I'm going to be taking this project into my house next to bake it inside of my microwave for just a little bit and then to my oven. I baked the Santa for 20 seconds on high in my microwave oven on the parchment paper and then slid it off onto a cooling rack. Once I had it set up just enough after it's cooled for a while, I went ahead and put all of my Santas into a 200-degree oven and baked them until they pretty much look like this color. And then I had them set out overnight to make sure that they were completely dry. They do dry very hard, and it's quite amazing what you can do with some simple water, flour, and cardboard and paper towels. Next up is the painting part. I'm going to be doing an undercoat painting. Your items are white, so you have to do some sort of undercoat painting. And I chose to use a bright complementary colors underneath and then work my way to the flesh tones, the beard colors, and the hat color. So that's why my hat is green right now, and the crazy wacky colors on his face are going to be adding to the depth and the character of this little guy. So I chose kind of a reddish color and then added some burnt sienna for my flesh tone. You're basically kind of painting the shadows at this point. And then to add a little bit of extra color to his beard, because often if you just paint the beard white, it just doesn't look as fun as if you do some underpainting colors on there. For his white areas, I wanted to be a little bit more colorful, so I chose some turquoise and a little bit of purple. When you're layering these colors in, you need to go ahead and do a little bit of painting, but then take some time and dry some of your layers so your colors don't get too muddy. To paint the base colors for his face, I chose a light flesh tone color. I watered it down just a tiny bit, wanting to make sure I still had some of that underneath colors showing through. So I did his face and his nose and his cheeks. But I wanted to be able to make those a little bit rosier in the end, the cheeks and the nose, so I'll be adding some pink coral colors to that. You build your layers up a little by little. I used a smaller brush here in this area so I could kind of skate across the tops. So I'm adding a little bit more of that off-white color and mostly on the tips of my whiskers. When applying the colors on the very top of the hair and the whiskers, you want to make sure you are keeping it on the top so you're not overpainting all of the other colors underneath. Now when working on the face, you're going to continue on with your light layers. Give your paint a little bit of time to dry too, and that's going to help you decide how much more color you want to put on your face. I'm going to be doing the same technique on the fur of his hat, so I layered in those colors, and now I'm adding the same whiter, lighter, brighter colors on the top. And now I'm finally painting that color red. Were you getting a little concerned about all those crazy colors I've been using? Sometimes you just gotta trust the process. You'll see in the end, he does turn out pretty cute. I was adding a little deeper shade of red at first, and then I'll be adding a brighter shade of that red on the very top. Again, go a little slow and add your layers. In this step, I'm taking a little bit of the brighter white now on the final steps. Before, my white was kind of more of an off-white, and I switched to using some bright white on the very top. And here I'm adding another layer of my red, just bumping up that color, making sure to go a little slow so I don't overpaint my layers. On this step, I decided I had lost a little bit too much of my blue and I wanted to bring some more of it back, so I kind of quickly went in and added some more blue to my whisker areas. This is that peachy pink color, and I'm going to be blushing that on top of my cheeks and on my nose area. That's going to bring that rosy quality to his face. I focused that rosy color mostly on his cheeks and on his nose. I kept the eye area more of a plain color, more of a flesh tone color. If you enjoy learning more about art techniques and painting techniques, come on over to my channel and see what I have to offer. On Tuesdays, I usually do an art, drawing, painting lesson. I'd love for more creatives to join me. So come on over and see what I have to offer. He's really starting to come to life. I know I've toned down his colors a lot. Thanks for hanging with me during the process. I'm sure you were thinking it was a little bit kind of a far out crazy technique, but hopefully you're able to see now that by adding that underneath painting and adding the layers really does give this little guy more of an artistic, whimsical look to him. Now I'm going to be adding one last final layer of the bright white on the top of this. Believe it or not, I'm going to be aging over this guy. I also like that very much aged, primitive look. So this is a little bright for me now, but I'll show you how I went ahead and aged over him. This is where I'm going to start drawing the eyes. I'm going to break the video right now, and I'm going to give just a quick little short eye tutorial on how I painted these eyes because they're a little hard to see, and I wanted you to have a closer up look. I painted blue-eyed Santas, so I used a medium shade blue, a dark blue, a black, and a white. For the round Santa, I created lines at an angle and then did half circles underneath. Put the whites of the eyes in, added a light shade of blue, and then a dark shade of blue, added the black, and then the highlights. The other Santas, I chose different eyes. I used a round dot Santa, light, dark, and white, and then added lines on the top just to make it look like he wasn't so surprised. And then for the other Santa, I created what I call little Christmas tree little eyes back and forth, added my highlights, and that's it. So you can do more complex or simple as you would like. For this Santa's eye, I mix a very light shade of purple. This is going to help my eye look even more blue and a little bit brighter. So not starting with white, but starting with a very light shade of purple. I'm using a very small brush in this area and then just dabbing my little colors in. Don't worry about getting too exact with this eye. It really is just about dabbing in colors and letting the colors come to life that way. Once I had the lavender part done, I went ahead and started the series of the blue colors, layering back and forth between my light blue and my dark blue. I'm only doing half circles. I don't want to see a complete round eye. If you make the eyes too round, a whole one, they look rather surprised if you think about having a really wide open eye, and that's not the look I'm going for. Once I had the blue parts done and the eye part, I went back in with my Kimberly pencil, which is a 9XXB, a super soft pencil, and I'm using that basically as my sketching tool and making more darkness to my eyes. It's in place of using black. If I were to use just black on my pencil, on my paintbrush, it's just too harsh of a line. I find that the pencil works better for this, and in the end, I can just clear coat it and it's going to be permanent. So I like using that Kimberly 9XXB pencil. Well, that was my colorful Santa. You can also do them in more rustic, neutral tones as well. I'm starting with more of a rusty tone underneath on the underpainting for my beard and my face, and by having that warmer brown color underneath, he's going to be more of a warm skin tone Santa. I'm blushing over the colors, painting his face the same way I did with my more colorful Santa, but you can see those more brown, rusty tones shining through that underpainting. I'm going to go ahead and start layering on the lighter colors on the beard, and I'll be adding some white on there as well too, but I'm starting with the cream tones and then working my way dark. This little Santa is going to get that peach tone colors as well, but this time for the peaches I'm going to be adding a little bit more rust into my peach just to make it a little bit warmer. This Santa is the one who's going to get those little Christmas tree shaped eyes. I take my paint, I water it down just a little bit, twist my brush and pull it towards me to make sure I have a nice tip on my paintbrush before I were to set it down to create these little eyes. Once I have the Christmas trees painted, I add the little highlights using a stylus, and that just brings him to life. Now that my bright color Santa has had time to dry, I went ahead and added a little bit of the instant coffee over the top. The instant coffee is going to sit down into the crevices of the paper. It's going to really pop out the texture and really bring this little guy to life. So not only does it age the little character and tone all of my colors down, it really does bring the texture from this paper mache out to a new level. To help set the coffee and even out the tone a little bit more, I pounce up and down using a chip brush, and that just helps set the color back in and brings a nice glow to this little Santa Claus. I have one more Santa I'd like to share with you. I made his shape a little differently. He was cut into more of a teardrop shape with a longer style beard. I'm going to be painting the undertones in a warm gray, and then his hat's going to be created in a warm undertone of this rusty red, and I'm creating more of a warm skinned Santa as well, so his underpainting will be more of in the brown tones. He's going to have more of a salt and pepper style beard with those warm undertones of the gray, and then adding a little bit more cream colors to the tops. I decided to go ahead and add a little bit more of that rusty color down below just to add another layer, so it's not just the solid gray. And here you can see how the red has changed so differently by having that darker brown color underneath there. It automatically gives it a little bit more of a primitive look. I'm toning down those peach colors for this little guy as well, not creating that bright pop of pink, but more of a subtle shade of a peachy color on his cheeks and his nose. This Santa's beard gets painted very similar to the other ones. I wanted it to have a very much a salt and pepper look to it, so I start with the darker colors and then layer up to my lightest ones. This Santa gets the simplest eyes with a dot of blue and then a dot of black, and I put a little tiny highlight of white on there. If I left it just like this, he'd have a very much of a surprised look with a very wide open eye. So I go back in with my Kimberly pencil, that 9XXB, and I make little lines on the top and at the bottom of my eye just to soften that little eye and make it come to life and not make him look like he has such an expressive, like, surprise look, but more of a gentle fellow look, I guess is what I'd like to say. I do really like using that pencil instead of a paintbrush to add these dark details to my eyes. I'm using my very smallest stylus that I have to create the little white dots for these eyes. Now, if you don't have a very small stylus, you could always use the end of a skewer. That's a nice sharp point to create those little tiny dots. But the white dots really do add the highlights, and that's what brings your eye to life. I wanted to make sure I gave my eye a dry before I did my last pencil work. The little dots are thick, so you want to make sure that they're dry before you add your final touches. Otherwise, your eye can smear. This guy's going to get a little bit of aging. It's fun to see the transformation by adding the coffee stain on top and how it does tone down the colors and bring that primitive aged look to this guy and really does pop out the texture of your paper mache paper towels that you used. So I'm going to do the same thing and tap it with my brush that I have. And I just forgot the name of those brushes. Chip brush, that's what I want to say. Tap it with a chip brush and it does work the color down and adds the finished look to your little guy. I kind of lost the highlights on there. If you find that you do lose a little bit too much, you can come back in with your little white lightly and brush a little few of your highlights over the top. So it's kind of that dance between adding and subtracting. But take your time, add your little brightness on there, and it really does make a difference. Cute, right? I thought these guys might benefit from a little bit of sparkle, so I added some diamond dust to their hats and their beard. And if you look closely, you can see the differences in the paper towel. Where the Viva paper towel is, it's nice and smooth. And where the other paper towel is, you can see those little twists and turns in my paper towel, adding that little extra bit of texture. Well, let's see what these little guys look like hung up on my fireplace mantle. I think they look kind of cute. I wanted to say a special thank you to Annie for hosting today's collaboration. Make sure you check out the link to her channel inside of the description box, as well as click that playlist and see what everyone else is creating in today's collaboration. I'm sure you're going to be inspired to create something fun for your Christmas holiday. If you're new to my channel and you like to do arts and craft, come on over and see what I have to offer. I'd love to have more creatives join me there. Well, hopefully you'll come back and see me again, and next time you'll create right along with me.